In the opening scene of the movie, there is a farm in a big jungle. There, we see a pretty young and beautiful girl named Nancy who is getting clapped by a guy. At a little distance, Nancy's uncle is writing down the customer's name in a diary. We came to the realization that Nancy sells herself to men for money, and her uncle keeps track of the business, kind of like her manager. After getting clapped by the customer, Nancy gets up and walks with her uncle to see her next customer. Even though so many men banged her today, she still has the strength for more clients. Naturally, Nancy's really good at what she does and has a nice body with big juggernauts. After she is done with her clients, Nancy gets back home with her uncle with groceries. They are a poor family and struggling to make money. We meet Nancy's little sister, Misa, and her uncle's son, Roki. Nancy's uncle gives Misa a treat, and everyone becomes really happy about all the food they bought for the family. After dinner, Nancy's uncle sits outside the house and starts drinking beer. He then starts to go through the diary and handle Nancy's client stuff. Suddenly, Roki joins him. Roki wants to get into a job so that he can help the family so that Nancy doesn't have to sell herself anymore. He knows what Nancy and his dad do, and also worries about them because some customers can be dangerous. So, Roki gives his dad a pocket knife to protect Nancy just in case. Roki gets up and heads to the bathroom. Nancy comes out after a bath, getting ready for another customer. In the morning, Nancy sets off with her uncle, ready to give service to her client. But there is a disagreement between Nancy and a customer, so Nancy does not let him bang her. The man ignores her consent and forcefully inserts his joystick inside Nancy's cave. Nancy screams for help. Her uncle was right outside drinking beer. Hearing Nancy scream, he rushes in and yells at the man to stop, but he had no intention to do so. The man refuses. The man pushes her uncle, and by accident the uncle gets his throat opened by the same pocket knife that Roki had given him. Nancy was terrified and started crying because of her uncle's death. Nancy tells everyone in the family about what happened, and they are all in shock and sad. Nancy comforts Misa, placing a hand on her shoulder. The family went broke in just a few days. Calls were coming to Nancy's uncle's phone from her past customers. Finally, Nancy had answered one. This person wants to meet up. They were in a serious lack of money, so Nancy said yes despite her strong hesitation. However, it was too risky for her to go alone, so Roki wanted to go with her. In the forest, Nancy was meeting with the new client, while Roki kept track of the client's information in a notebook. Roki had replaced his father. They left after 30 minutes. While walking towards their home, Nancy remembered a previous client who offered a lot of money for a single clapping session. She wasn't able to do it before. As they are in desperate need, she is willing to meet that rich client. When Nancy and Roki went to that client, we came to know that this guy is the leader of the village. He is also the wealthiest guy in the area. But he had a problem with his son Joshua since Joshua was gay. The town leader has asked Nancy to make his son a man. He also told Nancy and Roki that no one in the area must ever come to know about Joshua being gay. When Nancy walks inside Joshua's room with him, Joshua refuses to bang her, so they make a plan. Nancy would make loud moaning sounds so that Joshua's father would believe that his son was clapping her cheeks. But they wouldn't really be doing anything. They do as they planned. The town chief is glad that his son has become a man, and he gives a heavy sum of money to Roki. The following day, Roki shared an advertisement about Nancy, and all the males from the village gathered to visit Nancy's cave for digging reasons. Everything was going excellent, and they were making a lot of money. Eventually, a police officer called Samuel came to know about Nancy and Roki doing this illegal business. So Samuel approached Roki about this, and threatened to throw them in prison and shut the business down. But in the end, Samuel suggested that he would allow them to continue their company for a commission, so Roki agreed to it. The commission also included a free scavenging ticket to Nancy's cave, and he performed some deep digging. He had never been this pleased before. Samuel also had Roki become personal with his gay friend. Roki vomited occasionally while doing it, but did what Samuel told him to. 2 months went by, and now even Roki had begun having meeting sessions with the women of the village. The whole town now knows these two siblings as prostitutes, and their business is going successfully. As Roki and Nancy were coming home after clapping and been meeting by their customers, they saw Samuel on the road, and Samuel then collected his payment for this month from them. Next morning, we find Nancy has become terribly sick, and she is feeling extremely cold. So Roki covers her in with the blanket and goes outside to get medicine. Meanwhile, Samuel was riding on a bike when he looked at a girl who was walking home from college while having her face glued to her phone. Samuel had evil intentions with the girl. The girl goes to her home and changes her clothing, but Samuel is also there, looking through the window and having a look at her changing. In the following scene, we see Samuel's homosexual friend, who is highly drunk and urges Roki to get intimate with him. But the man was so drunk that Roki didn't have to do anything, and he calmly pulled out his wallet and kept the money. He also snatched his expensive watch as he left the location. Roki bought medicine for Nancy with the money he stole, and Nancy's health became a bit better, though she was still sick. With Nancy unavailable, Roki had to handle the entire clapping business. So he called the town head's son Joshua to take care of Nancy, keeping his father under the impression that Nancy would be making him into more of a man. When Joshua arrived, he took great care of Nancy and treated her very well. Meanwhile, Samuel had caught Roki stealing because Roki was still wearing the watch in his arm that he had stolen before. So Samuel locked up Roki in jail. A stunning surprise is revealed when we find the college girl also locked up in a cell next to Roki. Samuel had kidnapped this girl, but he had not even placed his hands on her yet, because he wanted to do it with her when she wanted him to, and not to forcefully clap her. Meanwhile, because Roki is locked in jail, the family is once again struggling for money. Nancy requested some food at a cheaper price, but the lady who was the owner of the shop told her to go away. Due to weakness, Nancy went down unconscious in her own home, after which her younger sister Misa woke her up after some care. Meanwhile, in jail, we come to know that the college girl's name is Amaya. Amaya requested Roki for help, but Roki responded that he couldn't do anything to get out of this situation. Amaya asks Roki if he can think of a strategy to escape. Samuel hears their chat and is angry. In an effort to show Amaya his power, he unlocks Rocky's cage and then beats him up violently. He then threatens Roki, stating if he attempts to escape, he will murder Roki. Next, we saw Samuel forcing Amaya to change her clothes, and he even grabbed her melons. Rocky helplessly watches all this, knowing he can't do anything to defend Amaya. Then, Samuel discovered Roki's diary, where he used to put all the earnings and customer information, and seeing all the money, he came to Roki and offered to give him a huge sum of money and he would set him free. But Roki explained that he spent all that money to buy expensive medication for Nancy. Samuel, lost in greed, is determined to still earn money off of this situation and creates a strategy. He contacted one of Nancy's customers from the diary, and when the client arrived, Samuel asked him to clap Amaya instead of Nancy, to which the man accepted. The client went into the jail and forced Amaya to taste his cucumber. Then he was going to penetrate the cave when suddenly Samuel stopped him. Samuel appeared to have had a change of mind and realized that he was going a little too far. Roki then informed Samuel that Nancy is probably in good health by now, and she may come here and convince Amaya to meet with Samuel. So Samuel sent a message to Nancy to come to the police station, and she arrived very quickly. Meanwhile, Roki assured Amaya that when Nancy comes, all three of them would be able to leave in some time. But as soon as Nancy comes, Samuel locks her up in the same cell as Amaya. Nancy is confused and doesn't know what's going on. Then Roki explains to Nancy that she has to prepare Amaya to be intimate with Samuel, and only after that they will let all three of them free. Nancy is first hesitant, but knowing there is no other option, she does as she is told to. She bathes Amaya and cleaned her up with a towel, making her ready. Now, Samuel brought Amaya to her bed, and even though Amaya requested him to stop, Samuel didn't listen and he went on continuing. He immediately began acting quite aggressive with Amaya, and Amaya's desperate screams of help was heard by Nancy and Roki, who cried in regret. After clapping Amaya, he placed her in the same cell as Nancy, and Nancy gave her some painkillers. At night, Samuel came back, ready to clap Amaya again. But Nancy stopped him and requested him to have mercy on her since she just had her first time few hours earlier. She then offered herself to Samuel instead of Amaya. So Samuel and Nancy began doing it in front of Amaya, and as Samuel was lost in pleasure, out of nowhere, Nancy cut his neck with the pocket knife, which ends his life. She then immediately snatched the keys and opened Roki's cell. Meanwhile, Amaya got a wooden rod and pushed it within Samuel's bum, and she felt a lot of joy in doing so, even though he was dead already. After that, Amaya, Roki and Samuel get out of the jail, and they all go to Nancy and Roki's home. They know they must move because if anybody catches them, they will be imprisoned for crime. Coincidentally, even Joshua came there with his car, and he too wanted to drive away from the village. In the following shot, we notice all of them are outside the town. Roki and Amaya are now in a relationship, and all of them are pleased to be away from the chaos of the village. That's how the movie ends. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.